sweets that were there on the dining table. And then he started showing us where to keep the salt, where to keep the pickle, where to serve the dessert, where to keep the rice. And he was very meticulous in his instruction. And that was just so beautiful. Like, the amount of detail, the attention to detail that Swami pays to all these small, small things. It's really an example for all of us. Because when you think about it, wedding is such a unique and a special experience in somebody's life. And here they are in a completely new environment. And then they are just like so blown away by the amount of love that they are getting from everybody. And they are wondering, who are these people? How come they are celebrating our wedding, right? So it was such a unique experience because of the example that Swami had set for all of us. Number one was, you always have to be inclusive, and you always have to make that person's day extra special. And then the attention to details that Swami had taught us. So that kind of stood out for me in my own heart, that anytime we organize events, we should always try to make sure that everybody feels included in that process, that everybody has at least some small task to do. The second story, which is about 20,000 meals, was also when I was a student in Anantapur. This was actually in my first year, and this was also a very, very special memory in my heart, which is around birthday time again. Swami had organized Narayan Seva, and I grew up in Chennai, a city kid, and Puttaparthi, the first time when I went to Puttaparthi, I was just so astounded by that experience because, you get the true, it's a small village. There's no hustle bustle of the city, and people are super nice and sweet to you. So I was always drawn to Puttaparthi in that sense. And so a couple of days before Swami's birthday, Swami had organized Narayan Seva, and he had invited the villages. There were more than 20,000 villages who had come for the Narayan Seva. And this was in the Hillview Stadium, a huge stadium. Some of you might have seen it in person. Some of you might have seen it in pictures or videos, but it's a huge stadium. So on the day of Narayan Seva, when we went there, that was, when we had gathered there, I had been to the Hillview Stadium for Swami's birthday celebration, the 60th birthday celebration. But there, that was during darshan time. But as for Narayan Seva, it was kind of organized in a very different way. There were rows and rows of, villagers. They would be facing each other. They would be sitting in lines and they would be facing each other. And there was a gap in between. So ladies on one side and gents on one side. And I was just blown away by the fact that there were so many villagers who had come for that one special meal of the year to celebrate Swami's birthday. And they would also get a gift of one sari for the ladies, and for the gents, they would get a dhoti. So for that one gift from Swami, many people would come from far off distances. And, you look at these, brothers and sisters, it was just, some of the, strong memories are, I remember, women with nowadays it's fashionable to wear big earrings. In those days when I was growing up, it was not that fashionable. So I would see women with these huge earrings. They would have a hole in their earlobe, and they would have this just a sweet smile. And they were all seated eagerly waiting for Swami. And then Swami came, and he got off the car, and then I saw him go to the gents' side. And then you couldn't tell because it was a little bit at a distance. And then after some time, Swami came to the ladies' side. And then that was the first time I noticed that Swami was not wearing slippers. The Hillview Stadium was just, sand and small rocks. Now it is green because it's also a cricket stadium. But in those days, it was just, flat, barren land. And Swami came and he was going he was coming to the lady's side. And then some of us went and we were carrying the vessels. One was with sweet rice and one was with the tamarind rice. And Swami took the ladle and then he was serving, bending down and serving. What was amazing was when Swami was serving, he was not just giving one scoop of rice. He would give 2 scoops of tamarind rice and 2 scoops of the sweet rice. And that also kind of, left a very deep imprint in my heart, because whenever you give, you have to be very generous. Whatever you give, you should give it with a very, very generous heart. Sometimes, we might think, I have caught myself doing it. We start worrying during Narayan Seva, or even when you have guests coming at home, you kind of, you're mindful about, the serving. But here, Swami, and you can look at any of the Narayan Seva videos where Swami is serving, he always serves very generously. Like that person, when they receive that food, even before they eat that food, with the love with which Swami is serving, already fills their heart. The stomach, you might get a few morsels, but it already fills their heart. So this was like the second, message I feel like Swami constantly reiterates to me is, whenever you give, you have to give generously, especially love. You have to be very, very generous. The third story is not a mother-in-law. Now, this was a personal experience when I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. As a family, we went to Puttaparthi, and we were seated inside the interview room. And at that time, I was, very, very afraid of Swami, very, very afraid of Swami. So I was kind of sitting in the back, trying to avoid him, because I used to feel like, Swami knew everything that I believed in, kind of blindly, that Swami knew everything about me. And he also knew all the, the small, very benign mischief acts that I would do, like not listening to my parents sometimes, not saying my prayers, my morning prayers, forgetting to do my homework. So I used to be afraid of Swami, thinking he's going to catch me and scold me for all those minor transgressions. So I was sitting in the back, and then Swami was speaking with my parents and my brothers. And all of a sudden, he asked my brother, pointing to my mother, he asked, who is she? And so my brother was kind of surprised, but he answered the question saying, Swami, that's Amma. So then Swami said, who is she to your father? My brother said, wife, Swami. Who is she to your grandfather? Mother-in-law, Swami. So daughter-in-law, Swami. Who is she to your uncle? Sister-in-law, Swami. Who is she to your wife? So at that time, my brother kind of giggled, because he was in high school, and being married, having a wife was the furthest thing away from his mind. So he just giggled and he didn't say anything. So then Swami himself said, mother-in-law, right? So then he just said, yes, Swami. And then Swami said, see, look at Swami. I'm a mother to you. I'm a mother to your mother. I'm a mother to your father. I'm a mother to your grandfather. I'm a mother to your uncle. And I'll be a mother to your wife as well. I am a mother in love, not a mother in law. The law may change, but my love will never change. And when he said that,
this is Sai program is coming. Watch this.
Unknowingly, I felt like something changed in my heart, where instead of being afraid of Swami, I was kind of drawn to his love. Because just the way he said it, that he was a mother in love, and you really felt that warmth of his love. You felt it. And somehow that changed. Maybe that was kind of like the beginning of the change in my own relationship with Swami, where, instead of being literally God fearing, you kind of felt like, I want to be a really good person. I want to be a good person so that I can be loved by this person, this individual. Generally, when we like someone, um, we want to behave in a way that pleases them, especially as a child. You feel that a little bit more strongly. I think even as an adult you do, but you feel a little bit more strongly that when you love someone, you want to do everything to please them. And sometimes that love transforms you, right? It changes the trajectory of your life. And it is hard to gauge that on a day to day basis. But if we look at our own lives, what we were, either before you came to Swami, or if you were born in a Sai family, and you have always known Swami, even if you look at, what you were 5 years ago to what you are now, I am very confident that there is a change. We are never the same because God loves you. And we can never be the same. We might feel like, why am I not changing? Why am I still having the same kind of thoughts? We might feel that. But in the larger scheme of things, I truly believe that God's love is always present and is always working through us. And I feel it has been our extraordinary privilege that we know of Swami. We not only know of Swami, we want to follow in his path and we love him. So I'm going to come back to the number as I wrap up this session, just sharing 3 brief stories. So I said 2,256, and I'll take a look at the responses that some of you have shared, and I want to commend you for sharing your thoughts. So what I did was I went to our sathyaSai.org website. There is a wonderful discourse search engine there. I love reading Swami's discourses, also reading Swami's books. So I just went, as I was, reflecting on this talk, I just went there and I typed in the word love. And when I when I pressed the search, there were 2,256 responses that came up, right? So then that made me reflect even more. Like, if you look at Swami's life, every single day, he consciously brought into his day, and when we were with him, we became a part of his day. He consciously brought love into each day. He has said, start the day with love, fill the day with love, spend the day with love, end the day with love. This is the way to God. And he demonstrated it every single day. You look at Swami's life, I briefly shared about, how he was as a child, elementary school, then before he got to high school, he announced his mission, and then he started his mission. He started the Veda Pathashala, he started the Balvikas program, the Anantapur Women's College, then the Brindavan College, then the Institute, the Super Specialty Hospital, the Water Project, the Radio Sai. He was the chancellor of a university, someone who had dropped out of school in grade 7 or grade 8. He was the chancellor of the university. He lived human days, filling it with divine love, showing that we are also capable of doing something similar, bringing into each day consciously, very consciously, the divine love. So I am going to set myself a birthday challenge, because nowadays, everybody has a challenge. I think a couple of years ago, there was the ice bucket challenge, and then the cold shower challenge. Now We have the insider lens edition, so we have the connect challenge. So here is a birthday challenge for all of us to consider. How can we bring love consciously into our thoughts, the way we think, into our words, the words that we speak, and in our actions? How can we bring love consciously into each day? And when we do that, I'm sure we will agree that divine love is the power, and that power will guide us every day. So I want to thank you all again for this opportunity to reflect on Swami's life, Swami's love, and Swami's message. And I want to wish all of you a very happy birthday and a very happy Thanksgiving. Sai Ram.